Hello and welcome. Today we will talk about bullying, abusive behaviors, and mobbing behaviors in the workplace. So this topic is a continuation of business ethics issues that have emerged in the workplace for many, many decades. However, certain behaviors seem to occur more often in the workplace. So think about, for example, what is bullying in today's environment? What form does bullying actually take place? And more specifically, what is workplace mobbing? So that's another topic that we see more and more nowadays that relates to not only just bullying, but also workplace discrimination toward individuals who are a little bit different from everybody else. As you may know already, Professors Farrell, Friedrich, and Farrell in their textbook Business Ethics do discuss abusive behaviors and bullying. And many other researchers have also talked about abusive behaviors and bullying in the workplace. And today I also want us to talk a little bit about mobbing behaviors along with this and how it differs from bullying alone. So when you're looking at abusive or intimidating behavior, we know that actions such as physical threats or false accusations and yelling could be abusive and intimidating behavior to most of us. However, the meaning of obviously intimidation and being abusive could vary in terms of how it is perceived by different individuals. So some people, when they are talked to directly in a forceful voice, may see that as intimidation. However, others may not see that as intimidation because they say that has to do with the personality of the person you're speaking with. However, that does not mean that they're being abusive. So nonetheless, in a work environment, we want to be as professional as possible in order to create a good work environment as opposed to a hostile work environment for our employees and colleagues. And if you're a manager, you have especially a more heavier responsibility to make sure your workplace is free of hostile work environment, free of abusive behavior, and free of intimidating behavior. Therefore, you need to check with each employee and see whether they have any accusations or challenges associated with being abused or being intimidated or being bullied at times. However, before we can do that as managers or as colleagues, we need to obviously understand what the terminologies mean, what the concepts actually mean, and what the examples might look like related to abusive behaviors or bullying or workplace mobbing types of issues. So bullying can create a hostile work environment. In workplace, bullying is very, very strongly associated with sleep disturbances, as well as depression, fatigue, increased sick days, and even stomach problems or physical as well as psychological problems that people go through. Unfortunately, chronic bullying in the workplace can drive employees to leave the company or be totally disengaged. And some people obviously might suffer to a point where they may have to see their doctor or psychologist to deal with such forms of bullying outside of the workplace, especially when the bullying is coming from supervisors, managers, or leaders who are highly respected and those who have a bit more power than the employees alone. Workplace mobbing is a form of bullying. So it's the act of bullying employees in the work environment, and such actions are usually negative, continuous, and they tend to intensify over time. Workplace mobbing is the act of bullying others in the workplace on a regular basis by two or more individuals usually. These actions are negative, continuous, and tend to intensify over time. So mobbing is not a conflict that occurs in a single instance. However, it can have many forms and types. Workplace mobbing and workplace bullying can include professional, emotional, verbal, as well as physical abuses coming in a downward, upward, inward, and even horizontal forms. So we will look at some of those different forms of workplace bullying and mobbing in the workplace. If we look at what is the meaning of abusive or intimidating behavior, we see that in the textbook, the authors do provide you some good material related to this. So in the textbook, you can see that intimidating or abusive behavior is another common ethical problem for employees. But what does it really mean to be abusive or intimidating? The term refers to many things: physical threats, false accusations, being annoying, profanity, insults, yelling, harshness, ignoring someone, and unreasonableness. And obviously their meaning differs from one individual to the next. However, it is very important to understand that within each term there is a continuum. For example, behavior one person might define as yelling could be another person's definition of normal speech. The lack of civility in our society has been a concern, and it is as common in the workplace as elsewhere. The productivity level of many organizations has been damaged by time spent unraveling problematic relationships. So again, spending a little bit of time understanding what do we mean by bullying behaviors or workplace mobbing or intimidation or abusive behaviors is time well worth spending. If we look at page 67 of your textbook in chapter 3, you'll see there's a little debate issue in whether you take a stand on one side or the other of this concern. So the authors have done a good job of giving you some information so you can make your mind whether you fall on this side or on this side, and how do you see this issue. Is workplace bullying serious enough to warrant legal action? So let's look at this case of bullying, taking a stand. Workplace bullying is abusive behavior used to assert a person's power over another person. One survey shows that more than 1/3 of employees have actually been victims of some kind of workplace bullying behaviors. So that is a lot, 1/3. That is over 33% in some cases, in some organizations. Yet, while some countries have laws against workplace bullying, the United States does not have any such laws as of the writing of this textbook. However, as you know, that the president's wife, Melania, has been working on removing or reducing in dealing with workplace bullying in the cyberspace. So that was one of her platforms, and hopefully we will have some tangible results and recommendations about how to reduce that as a result of Melania Trump's work in dedication to the reduction of workplace bullying and intimidation through technology. Many individuals believe that employees should be legally protected from workplace bullying because bullying is harmful to employees' health. Victims of bullying suffer from symptoms that include depression, anxiety, as well as low self-esteem. Especially when this is happening in the workplace or even in primary school, those children or young employees could obviously be impacted to a greater extent. As we get older and more experienced and become more competent, we're not likely to be impacted at the same level as younger individuals in school or younger employees who are inexperienced in entering the workplace for the first time. Bullying permeates the environment of the workplace, causing bystanders to feel its unpleasant effects in creating a toxic workplace. Others, however, believe anti-bullying laws would limit managers' ability to manage, since they would constantly be afraid their management styles could be perceived as bullying. So, what is your thinking in this case? If a manager is being forceful, would you see that as intimidating and bullying, or would you see that as professional communication? Obviously, everybody has their opinion regarding this. The textbook continues to say that critics of such a law argue that bullying is hard to define, making such a law difficult to enforce. Instead, they are in favor of internal ways to combat bullying, including conflict resolution, harassment awareness, insensitivity training. Is that enough to deal with bullying? There are a couple of points here. Number one, bullying in organizations can be very, very harmful to employees, and therefore it warrants legal action. Second, laws against bullying are not feasible as they are hard to define and have the potential to limit managers' ability to manage. Which side do you stand by? Do you agree with number one, or do you agree with number two here? Whichever side you believe in, hopefully you understand how it would impact the workplace. Now, in the workplace, think about you being a manager. How would laws regulate and tie up your hands? Will it tie up your hand when it comes to bullying? On the other hand, if we don't have those laws, how would you feel if your manager is yelling and screaming at you and you have no way of legally protecting yourself? So which side do you stand on? Again, your definition, your understanding of workplace bullying will help you better understand which side of the debate you will be on. As you can see in this paragraph, the authors mention that bullying is associated with a hostile workplace where someone or a group considered a target is threatened, harassed, belittled, verbally abused, or overly criticized. Bullying creates what is referred to as a hostile work environment. But the concept of a hostile work environment is generally associated instead with sexual harassment. Regardless, bullying can cause psychological damage that may result in health-endangering consequences to the target. For example, bullying in the workplace is strongly associated with sleep disturbances. The more frequent the bullying, the higher the risk of sleep disturbance. Other physical symptoms include depression, fatigue, increased sick days, and stomach problems. Bullies can use a mix of verbal, nonverbal, and manipulative, threatening expressions to damage workplace productivity. The authors also mention in this last paragraph that approximately 72% of bullies in the workplace outrank their victims. If a manager does not address bullying behavior in his or her organization, then what starts out as one or two bullies may begin to spread. It has been found that employees who have been bullied are more likely to find it acceptable to bully others. So bullying can be contagious in your department's culture, in your organization's culture. If you feel as though something might be intimidating to others, don't do it, and don't allow others to do it to other employees or colleagues. And obviously, you can think about how would you feel if you are on the receiving end of it from your boss, from your superiors. The authors also mention some specific actions that are associated with bullies. So let's look at these examples. Number one is spreading rumors to damage others. Spreading rumors is not physical threat, it's not hurting somebody, but nonetheless, these are actions of bullies. Second, blocking others' communication in the workplace. Third, flaunting status or authority to take advantage of others. Fourth, discrediting others' ideas and opinions. Fifth, use of emails to demean other individuals in the workplace. Sixth, failing to communicate or return communication in a timely manner. 7, insults, yelling, and shouting in the department. Even if you're shouting at someone who deserves it, keep in mind others in that meeting, others in the department will see you as a bully, even though your yelling and insults are not directed at other people in the department. So you don't want the department morale to be going down and be negative simply because somebody deserves that you yell at them and scream at them because they made a mistake. So always be professional. Do not abuse insults, yelling, and shouting behaviors. Number 8, using terminology to discriminate based on gender, based on race, based on a person's age. Number 9, using eye or body language to hurt others or their reputations. And finally, number 10, taking credit for others' work or ideas. If somebody works hard and prepares a report for the department, for the organization, you should give them proper credit for that. Obviously, when you're not giving credit to people who deserve it, then they will be upset and become disengaged in future when you need them to do something. Some managers feel as though, okay, I'm paying these employees to get the work done. Therefore, there's no reason for me to pat them on the back or tell them you did a good job. Well, that might be true. However, keep in mind as employees, we do like a pat on the back every now and then. We do like to hear thank you. We do like to be acknowledged for our hard work. So again, try to avoid these specific actions that are mentioned in the textbook because they are associated with bullying tactics. The textbook continues to say that there is currently no U.S. law prohibiting workplace bullying. However, 27 states have introduced healthy workplace bill to consider ways to combat bullying. Workplace bullying is illegal in many other countries. Some people suggest employers take the following steps to minimize workplace bullying in their departments and organizations. Create policies that place reprimand letters and or dismissal for such behaviors. Emphasize mutual respect in the employee handbook. Obviously, if you do have policies in the handbook, it means nothing unless you train employees on what they mean, unless you actually orient employees with the handbook material, content, and policies, unless you as a manager role model these behaviors to your employees in the workplace. So do put these policies in the handbook, but also provide training for all employees and managers about the expectations that you have of their behavior every single day. And make sure managers are role models of those policies that are mentioned in the handbook. Encourage employees who feel bullied to report the conduct via hotlines or other means. Make sure they're not retaliated against when they're reporting bullying behaviors to their managers, to the human resource department, or to the upper echelons. In addition, firms are now helping employees understand what bullying is by the use of following questions. Is your supervisor requiring impossible things from you without training? Does your supervisor always state that your completed work is never good enough? Are meetings to be attended called without your knowledge? Have others told you to stop working, talking, and socializing with them? Does someone never leave you alone to do your job without interference? Do people feel justified screaming or yelling at you in front of others, and are you punished if you scream back? Do human resources officials tell you that your harassment is legal and you must work it out between yourselves as a group or in your department? Do many people verify that your torment is real but do nothing about it. So these are some good questions to get employees' opinions and voices integrated into your department's culture, into your organization's overall status for a given time, so you can provide relevant training for them if you notice that many employees are complaining that some of these things are happening in their workplace. Keep in mind, in this last paragraph, the authors mentioned that bullying also occurs between companies that are in intense competition. Even respected companies such as eBay have been accused of monopolistic bullying. The Justice Department in the U.S. accused eBay of having secret agreement with Intuit to avoid hiring workers from each other's companies. The Justice Department believes this agreement served to limit competition and hinder employment opportunities. eBay settled for $3.75 million. In many cases, the alleged misconduct can have not only monetary and legal implications, but can also threaten the company's reputation, investor confidence, and impact customer loyalty toward your brand and your organization. So bullying is a very important business ethics issue, and you as a professional must deal with it when you see it, so you can root it out of your department, your organization. But obviously, we as professionals need to be very careful to make sure our behavior statements are not seen or perceived as bullying behaviors. There are several published articles that you should look into in order to find out more information about workplace mobbing. For example, one of them is an article published in the Business Ethics and Leadership Journal, volume number 4, issue number 1, during April of 2020. So the article is entitled Workplace Mobbing and the Role of Human Resources Management. And in this article, you can see that the abstract gives you a good idea of how it relates to bullying. And the references stated here for you in the American Psychological Association format. Another good article related to the acceptability of workplace bullying was published in the Journal of Business Research. So this article is entitled Acceptability of Workplace Bullying, a comparative study on 6 different continents. Now, this article was based on empirical study, working with hundreds of different individuals who responded to our survey in these 6 different continents. As you can see, we have gathered all this data through many authors and co-researchers in this article. So this study was led by Dr. Jacqueline Power. You can see that she is the first author of this, and then the rest of us as colleagues from different countries try to assist in the gathering of data, the analysis of data, and obviously writing of the article and eventually reviewing and submitting the material for peer review to where it was accepted eventually in the Journal of Business Research. So this was published in their volume number 66, issue number 1, and it starts on page 374 all the way to 380. So you should look into that as well if you're doing research in the area of bullying. As always, obviously, you can look at all of these references that are available to you to support your literature research and to better understand these topics.